Live from Washington, D.C., Sekulow Live. Phone lines are open for your questions right now. And now, Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow.
Hi, everybody. There's a lot to talk about. There is a rules fight brewing for the Republican National Convention. There's no doubt about that. Fan Bennett is taking a good look at the rules. We're going to talk about that. Donald Trump got into an issue on the issue of abortion. The question came from Chris Matthews. I'm going to talk to you about that issue, how that should be legally analyzed, and what that means for this debate. And then Gitmo detainee transfers, all of this happening today on Thursday. Quite a news day already as the reality of we are in a full-blown election season. Jordan, these kind of issues, whether it is Gitmo, the abortion issue with Donald Trump, or some of these others, this is going to be the norm now for between now and November.
Yeah, but these are contrast issues that are very different depending on what side of the aisle you're on, Republican and Democrat. I think for Donald Trump, it's a test of the depth. It's again, I mean, sitting down with Chris Matthews, I think that you could question if that's a great move for any Republican, just because of the confrontational nature and kind of the setup of that question. But the second part is that he has said he is new to the pro-life movement. So I think he has built a window, though some pro-life groups were very critical of the statement. I think, honestly, he's been honest about saying, I'm new to this. What we're really seeing, though, is a race that's getting more complicated for anyone to get specifically to 1237. We got polling out of Wisconsin showing a close race with Ted Cruz in the lead, and we got a new poll today out of New York with Donald Trump in the lead almost by 20. Yep. So, again, that would be two big states, New York being bigger, that would kind of split up. And then you would not really have a chance to see if anybody could get to 1237 until June.
Here's what happened on the Donald Trump statement regarding abortion. If Congress were to pass legislation making abortion illegal, he said that he thought it would be appropriate to hold the women that are involved in the abortion responsible. Now, let me point out at the outset that a prohibition on abortion that exists federally is the Partial Birth Abortion Ban Act. That act, which makes it a crime for a physician or others acting in concert with him to engage in a partial birth abortion, specifically says a woman upon whom a partial birth abortion is performed may not be prosecuted under this section for conspiracy to violate the section or for any offense under Section 2 of the code, which is the code where this is illegal. That does not answer the question whether a state has the authority, if abortion in fact was illegal, to go after anybody, including the woman or anybody else that was involved in the process. Could a state do it? That's different from should they. Could they? Legally? Yeah, state could. They could say that anybody that participates in the murder of an unborn child is culpable. That's not the political answer. That's just a legal one. We're going to take your calls and comments about all this at 1-800-684-3110, 800-684-3110. We'll talk about Gitmo. We're talking about the RNC changing the rules. How you feel about that? We'll talk about the abortion issue, and we'll take your calls at 800-684-3110. We'll be back in just a moment.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
All right, so I want to address a couple things first. Number one, we're in a matching challenge campaign, folks. This is the last day. So if you've thought about donating to the ACLJ, today's today to do it. I'll get the amount we need to get to today. to meet our goal. ACLJ.org for that. You just go to online and make an online gift to ACLJ.org, and that will do that. Let's go ahead and talk about first the political situation. We've got a rule change discussion going on right now, Than. Let's talk about this. Senator Cruz took one position, not surprisingly. Governor Kasich is taking the other. Let's set it up, and then I'm going to play their sound.
There are really two rules in question here, Jay. One is Rule 40, two parts of that. Part B that talks about how you have to win the majority of delegates in 8 states to be eligible to not only be nominated, Jay, but also declared the winner. So if you want to talk about subsequent rounds, you have to have met that threshold to be declared the winner. That's Rule 40. And the other one, this is the one that John Kasich talked about, Rule 42. He talks about how there are no rules for 2016. That's not exactly correct. Rule 42 says that the rules from 2012 are the temporary rules for this convention until the Rules Committee meets and writes new ones. So they can definitely be amended, but until they are, the rules from 2012 are the governing rules at this point.
Let me play Bill Hemmer. It was in a conversation with John Kasich. Kasich obviously wants the rules to change. Let's listen to this exchange.
If that rule stands, you don't stand much of a chance unless the party changes the rule.
Well, first of all,
so what gives?
Well, first of all, they don't have to change a rule. There are no rules. Romney is yesterday, not today, not July. We'll have a rules committee that will determine what the rules are.
So he's hedging it, Jordan, right now on the fact that to get those rules changed, he knows that's Kasich's only path to a brokered convention, and for him to be the nominee is that.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, so you've got to get to a brokered convention and a rule change. And now the rule changes, that happens every single convention. So every 4 years when the Republican Party comes together, these rules that right now from 2012 say you had to have 8 states, that could be amended and changed by the Republican Rules Committee that meets before the convention. So someone like John Kasich technically could still be a nominee at that point because the rules have not been written. It would be very difficult to see that happening, but it's technically possible.
Of course, Ted Cruz takes the opposite approach. Play that in a minute. Logan, we're already getting responses on our social media.
A lot of people are asking, is this something typical? Do the rules change every 4 years? This big of rules, or is this something that's going to be made, like one person said, is this rule made, this is from Sam, just to stop Donald Trump?
Well, the rule that exists, the existing Rule 40 was put in place the first time was in 2012. Isn't that correct, Nan?
That's correct.
So
it does.
It's new. So rules change. Yeah, rules change. I don't know if did they change. How frequently are rules? That rule was just added the last convention. That was to protect Mitt Romney's nomination.
Yep, for Ron Paul delegates, actually. And so not Rand, Ron Paul delegates and trying to funny business there. Not that he didn't have enough nominees, but just to make it a smooth one round of voting so that it didn't get into one of those back and forth, first round, second round, third round. So that was inserted that way through a completely legal process following the party rules that's governed by the party. And so this is why I think there's a lot of new people paying attention to this Republican race. Donald Trump has admitted that. A lot of new people are not used to this. But the truth be told, this is pretty typical for the party. So even this is not something that would just have appeared out of 2012. Right. It's something that was new then.
Yeah, we do have comments up for people like Rob who said if the RNC does this, they've spit in the face of the American people, and this will be the end of the Republican Party. I think we're saying sort of to me what happened in 2000, which was sort of the revelation that the Electoral College was more than just your popular vote.
Right.
And I think what we're saying is kind of the same thing now, which is
there actually are
just
rules.
Because he won the majority of the states or majority of this situation doesn't mean you automatically get a nomination.
Well, and Dan, going back, you've been analyzed this morning. I want our entire audience to understand we're looking at these because we think this is going to be a big issue, no matter which candidate you're backing. I mean, you heard, of course, that you heard that John Kasich wants the rule changed. But let me play you now. This is our friend Yu Hewitt talking to Ted Cruz. Here's the difference response.
Are you endorsing Rule 40?
It is the rules that govern the convention, and of course, the Washington power broker shouldn't try to change the rules to steal the nomination. Of course, we should operate under the rules that govern the nomination. I think that would be a terrible idea for the Washington power brokers to change the rules because they're unhappy with the candidates who the voters are voting for.
And now the reality is, though, Than, because you're the one that looked at it for us this morning, and folks, again, this is an analysis you're not going to get everywhere else. I mean, we've gone through the rules and the history. That rule has only been in place for one convention.
Yeah, it's only been in place since 2012, and
it was in place for the 2012 convention. There hasn't been a convention since then, so it was in place for one convention. It's not like it's the precedent from, since 1868.
Absolutely correct. And what Jordan said about amending these rules at every cycle, that's exactly true. In fact, that's spelled out in Rule 42 as well. It talks about how the second half of these rules get rewritten every time. So the rules that are in place exist until they are changed, but they are changed or at least addressed. They're addressed every single year, and then sometimes they are changed.
But Logan's point is that people are just as confused about the Electoral College, that you could win the popular vote and still not win the election, that this is having that same impact. But what we're trying to tell you is, folks, no matter if you're for Cruz or Trump or for Kasich, rules do change. Now, what the political fallout on that could be significant, but people are confused.
Yeah, I think that's generally the comments is people are just upset.
Okay.
So, I mean, this is from Kimber, who said, so do they represent us? Is this we the people or not? So it's saying to these delegates, who are they representing if it's popular vote?
Okay, so Jordan, you've done these conventions before. The delegates are really marching to their own tune. The truth is.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, these are
you're not the member of Congress. It's not your elected representative.
No, they're people that have gotten active in their local parties at the very local level, usually, to represent the party at the convention. Sometimes, and in different states have different rules on how that's done, and who the delegates are. Some have, you actually elect the delegates. You may have seen that on your ballots, and some of them are bound to who won their district or who won their state for a certain amount of rounds. So it involves also state rules as well.
Exactly.
But these are not. This is not like the Electoral College. Let's put it that way. It's not the same kind of thing. This is very much party specific rules, and it's different on both sides. The Democrats, with the whole superdelegate issue that comes up the whole time, is also very unique.
Because you could have a majority. You could have a majority of the elected delegates, and the superdelegates make their own decision. They can bind themselves. They're not elected by anybody. Because of their status within the party, they get to make those determinations. So here's the lesson on this, folks. If you think the rule change is a new issue, it's not. Now, granted, I think there'll be a serious political fallback and pushback if these rules are changed. But the reality is, this has happened before. We want to get your comments on that at 1-800-684-3110. Taking phone calls also on the Trump abortion issue. We've got the sound from that. All right, if we're going to take a call on that, let's get the sound from that first. There's the question from Chris Matthews and Donald Trump's response. I want to give you a brief legal analysis.
How do you ban abortion? How do you actually do it?
Well, you'll go back to a position like they had where people will perhaps go to illegal places.
Yeah.
But you have to ban it.
Do you believe in punishment for abortion? Yes or no, as a principle?
The answer is that there has to be some form of punishment.
For the woman?
Yeah, there has to be some form.
10 cents, 10 years,
I don't know. That I don't know.
Why not?
I don't know.
You take positions and everything else.
I do take positions and everything else. It's a very complicated position.
So let me give you what the law is. So 18 U.S.C. Section 1531, this is the only federal abortion act, says partial birth abortions are prohibited. So doctors that engage in partial birth abortions are violating criminal code. There's a specific provision that says a woman upon whom a partial birth abortion is performed may not be prosecuted under the section for conspiracy to violate the section or for an offense under Section 2, which is the title that prohibits partial birth abortions.
It's saying just the doctors.
Yeah, so basically they're saying it's the person that actually does the abortion. Now, that's a different question. I want to say this. That's a different question from whether you legally could have statutes, if Roe versus Wade was overturned, that criminalized the abortion activity, including anybody that voluntarily, not coercion, not the life of the mother, not rape or incest, but because those would all be defenses. But could a state say if a woman voluntarily had a partial birth abortion, that act could be criminalized? Could a state say that? Sure, a state could say that. And if you believe that the child's a person, well, I'm not so sure that that's contradictory. Politically, Than, we've got a very consistent position on that. That politically, we always focus on the abortion provider, not the woman. But that's a different question than legally.
Right. The consensus political position on the federal level has been that you should prosecute the abortionist. I mean, you mentioned partial birth abortion, but that's gone down through pain capable, born alive, unborn victims of violence. All of those, Jay, have held the woman heartless and said we should prosecute the abortionist.
Yeah, and that's the idea there. But again, that's a different question than could a state legally prohibit the activity and criminalize the actions. And Jordan, this is when, again, it goes kind of back to the nuance of not exactly knowing his position is clearly. But, legally, a state could say anybody involved in the process is committing a crime.
Yeah, I mean,
if you believe it's a person.
We're talking hypotheticals here. I think it's a long road till we get to that point where those kind of abortion laws would be potentially in place.
That's a question to me, and there's a political question whether they should be. I think that's a legitimate point. But the legal issue is not improbable.
No, it's not. And so I think that's the difference here is that the pro-life groups have a position that they don't like the punishing the women. They have always taken that position. But I think by Donald Trump saying he is new to this, you have to give some leeway. He hasn't said he's been a pro-life advocate for 20-plus years. He hasn't claimed to be that.
Folks, we are in our April Matching Challenge campaign, and that means that any amount you donate to the ACLJ, we're getting a matching gift for. This is a crucial month. March, April, and December are the months that matter on these matching challenges, and we are in April. So, again, go to aclj.org. That's the easiest way to make an online contribution. It's tax-deductible. aclj.org or 877-989-2255 or aclj.org. Back with more in just a moment.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255 or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.
In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today legalized abortions.
I didn't want anyone to see me. I didn't want anyone to know.
I'm proud to be here today speaking on behalf of Planned Parenthood.
It's around $500 million that we're giving Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood is synonymous with abortion.
They're in the business of abortion. They worship at the altar of abortion.
Abortion is a business. Nobody gives away free abortions.
Today, Planned Parenthood really is Abortion, Inc.
We really did treat women like second-class citizens.
They believe that they're doing a service while that child is in a surgical tray.
Revelations tonight that could put some in the abortion industry in a most uncomfortable position.
An organization is chopping up children and selling the body parts to the highest bidder.
Planned Parenthood Senior Director of Medical Services says prices per body part specimen would likely range from $30 to $100.
They could call it whatever they like. The reality is they've been caught red-handed.
I would tell you that child has value.
The very last thing that I saw, this perfectly formed little backbone, probably about this big, just swirling around in his mother's womb. And then I finally saw it be suctioned away. And then the screen was black. And I knew the abortion had been completed. I had witnessed a death.
I think the greatest sin in the world is bringing children into the world that have disease from their parents, that have no chance in the world to be a human being, practically. Delinquents, prisoners, all sorts of things just marked when they're born. That, to me, is the greatest sin.
I think what we need to look at is the business of abortion.
We were driven by this quota.
So there's the line in Undemocratic that nobody voted for you, and the Donald Trump argument is he's got 2 million more votes than anybody else. He has the most delegates. If he goes in with the most delegates, does that mean he should be the nominee? I want your opinion on that. I'll tell you the legal answer, but we want your opinion on it. 800-684-3110. Are you getting a sense from that, Logan, on Facebook and where people are leaning on if he has the most, but he's not at 1237.
Well, it depends on who they support. But we are seeing general confusion, I'd say, that this is some of these questions. Because, I think the last time a contestant convention was something that was happening, a lot of the voters were not of voting age or were not born. So this is brand new to a lot of people, the fact that this could be something, a brokered convention that hasn't happened in my lifetime. That has succeeded. Let's go ahead, though, take our calls. Let's go to Mary Ellen in Chicago, Illinois. You're on the air.
Hey, Mary Ellen.
Oh, hello. Good morning.
Hey,
I just had a comment about Trump last night. Early on when he first announced he was running, a lot of pro-life people I know said, oh, he's really pro-abortion. And they didn't believe he said he was pro-life.
Yeah.
But this exchange now with Matthews told me he's thinking pro-life and would be willing to take that stand.
Well, here, let me give you the legal analysis on this, and this is where this is not the political analysis. This is the strictly, Mary Ellen, and to our audience, this is the legal analysis. If we believe the child is a person, in other words, the personhood of the child that should be protected under the Constitution, then someone that knowingly, willfully, and voluntarily takes the life of that person could be, not should be, could be held culpable under criminal laws of the various states. That would not be illegal or extra-constitutional. Now, I'm not saying that's the right policy because a lot of us view that the women are forced into coerced situations. But the reality is, and let me just throw out the hypothetical. Woman's having her third partial, and this happens, third partial birth abortion. Partial birth abortion's illegal in the state of California says, you know what, anybody that participates voluntarily in a partial birth abortion, unless it's the life of the mother, rape, or incest, is culpable criminally. That's not illegal. A state could do that. I'm not saying that's the right political decision. I'm not even saying that's the right moral decision. I'm saying legally, was what Trump was saying legally incorrect? No, it wasn't legally incorrect. Politically, he had to take it back. But legally, it was not incorrect. Now, the question is, Jordan, what does that do to the politics? I mean, what does that do to this debate?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that it obviously this gets to general election. Someone like Hillary Clinton could seize on this, and you could see where moderate voters, people who may be more inclined maybe to be generally pro-life, but get concerned about statements like this from someone who maybe, it's that kind of indication that, when you make these kind of broad statements, you're running for president, you're not running for the House, you're not running for Congress, not even governor, but president of the United States. So you could see, I don't think it's so much Republican primary as it is general election. And I would imagine Hillary Clinton in those states where someone like Donald Trump may be more competitive than more traditional Republican nominees in the past, that these kind of ads could be damaging. And so it's not so much for the base, but of the Republican Party, but I think it's those general independent election and moderate voters in the general.
Because I'm saying, people commenting in a positive direction. We're saying this comment that just came in from Nick. You said, I have a new respect for Donald Trump. He might have not always have been pro-life, but at least now he's speaking against it. We're seeing kind of, you're right, it's sort of the conservative Christian side of this, not necessarily saying a big problem with what he had to say, but you're right, the attack ads will be
devastating. Could be devastating. Yeah. I mean, Than, your thoughts, and then we'll take some more calls.
Well, I think there's a big difference between could and should, and I think initially Donald Trump was saying that they should actually be changed, and then I'm glad he walked it back. I want people to understand that because we want to win hearts and minds on this, and he has now clarified, and he's in the right position on this. It did give me some heartburn when he said it, but in a general election, and from a policy perspective,
but you want to know why it gives you heartburn? You want to know why it gives everybody heartburn? I'm going to say it, and this is going to be controversial. You know why it really gives everybody heartburn? Here's the real reason. And some of you are going to really disagree with this because a lot of people don't really believe the unborn child's a person. Because if you really believe the unborn child was a person, and as I've looked at my grandchildren's ultrasounds, you would say, if somebody voluntarily did this for the purposes of birth control, which is generally what it is, it's an inconvenience, not medically necessary, not life of the mother, not incest or rape. You think to yourself, it's really a person. What's so what? But we aren't there yet politically, and we're not there maybe even legally or morally, and that may be, shame on us in one sense. I'm not saying it would be the right policy, by the way, to do this, because I think I believe politics are the art of the possible. And I agree, Than, we want to win hearts and minds, but the problem is, if you really logically look at this, the fact of the matter is, if it's a person, for goodness sake, and I believe it is, well, the rules would be different. For any other person that somebody killed, they'd be held culpable, either as the primary person or the accessory to the crime. I mean, so this is not it's not craziness what's being said here, and I think that's why you're seeing on social media kind of a mixed reaction.
Yeah, and that is what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of people coming through.
I agree with Jordan and Than on that. All right, let's take another call.
All right, let's go ahead. Let's go to David, who's calling from Orange County, California. David, thanks for holding you on the air.
Hey, David.
First of all, I just want to thank you for what you do and the ACLJ.
Thank you.
Huge. I think it's awesome. But I just wanted to get your take on, because I listen. I'm a big Fox News watcher. I flip over and I listen to MSNBC to get the other side once in a while. The chaos and the I'm disgusted almost now watching Trump talk, Sean Hannity, with his take on things, Rachel Maddow with her take on things.
Well, look, Sean Hannity's a very good friend of mine, David, and they're entitled. It's opinion television, so it's different than the news reporting. So I mean, you know that you've been following this a long time. So they're giving you their opinion, and I think these are. I'm not friends with Rachel Maddow, but she has the right to say it. Sean Hannity, I am friends with, and he has the right to say his position. If you want just analysis, I think we've got to rely on ourselves more. But I don't think you should not be listening to Sean Hannity, or if you want to tune into Rachel Maddow, find out what they're thinking there. I think it's fine. But I think this is the political realities, Jordan. We're in a very heated political contest, both on the Republican and Democratic side. There is no guaranteed nominee on either side right now, especially as this FBI investigation appears to be heating up.
Yeah, that's right. Because of the way that superdelegates work in the Democrat Party, Hillary Clinton has this technically on paper right now huge lead, even though she has not been doing so well in some of the more recent contests. Though she is leading Bernie Sanders in one of the, not Wisconsin, but which is basically tied right now, but in New York, where she was a former United States senator. At the same time, those superdelegates, like you said, they're totally unbound. So something happens with the FBI. They don't have to go to her. They don't have to necessarily go to Bernie Sanders. They could also rewrite their rules and draft someone in.
That's going to do it for the broadcast today, folks. But I want to urge you, as we're talking about these issues of life and the importance of it and all the political season we're in, don't lose sight of the fact that the ACLJ is engaged in these issues around the globe. So we could really use your help. We're in a matching challenge for the month of April. That means any amount you donate to us, we're getting a matching gift for. So it's tax deductible, of course, but we encourage you to go to aclj.org. and support the work of the ACLJ with your contributions, or call us at 1-877-989-2255. It really does make a huge difference. Again, aclj.org or 877-989-2255. The easiest way to participate in that matching challenge, of course, aclj.org.
It is a critical time for our nation, and the American Center for Law and Justice is on the front lines, defending life and liberty, engaging the issues that matter most to you and your family. Whether it's working to protect Americans from the dangers of radical Islam and the persecution of Christians, to defending life at the U.S. Supreme Court, to protecting your religious and constitutional freedoms, we could not do this work without you, without your support. And now your support can really make a tremendous difference. For a limited time, you can participate in the ACLJ Matching Challenge. If you make a gift now, it will be doubled. $25 becomes $50. A $100 gift becomes $200. Please stand with the ACLJ right now and call 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or go online at aclj.org. Thank you for your support.